Hello, I'm Chris Tracy, Archive Specialist at Norfolk Heritage Centre, located on the second floor of the Norfolk and Norwich Millennium Library. I'm often asked, what is the oldest book in your collection? And in today's edition of Heritage Highlights, I'm going to be examining that very item, the Norwich Apocalypse, an illuminated commentary on the Book of Revelation, which dates from approximately 1250. The book, written in Latin and properly titled In Apocalypsin, is one of 8 manuscripts to be found in the 2,000-strong Norwich City Library collection. Founded in 1608 as a reference library for visiting preachers and originally housed in Blackfriars Hall, Norwich City Library was one of the first of its kind to be founded outside London, and the city is fortunate to still have its collection of books intact and publicly accessible from the Heritage Centre. The Apocalypse was donated to the collection in 1618 by Thomas Atkins, a local merchant who became the Sheriff of London, and little is known of its provenance prior to that date. Here it is shown in its custom-made box in our stack, which is temperature and humidity controlled to ensure the collection's survival for many more hundreds of years to come. Before we take a look at the contents, it's worth spending a moment to consider the Apocalypse's exterior, which is a splendid example of a Romanesque binding. The term Romanesque refers to bindings characteristic of those dating from the second half of the 11th to the end of the 14th centuries. The covers are plain oak boards, cut squarely with beveled edges. The gatherings, or quires, each of which are comprised of 12 folios, that is 12 sheets of parchment, each folded once, are sewn onto 5 equally spaced leather supports, which have been split longitudinally. The sewing supports and end bands enter the boards through rectangular tunnels drilled into the spine edge. The oak boards have no covering. Since there is no sign of any adhesive where the turn-ins would have been on the reverse of the boards may never have been covered. The number 287, which can be seen on the front board, is presumably an old catalogue number, and likely dates from the 18th century. The Apocalypse is in fact 2 books bound in together. The first is the text of the Book of Revelation with an accompanying commentary. This is a copy of a work attributed to Berengardus of Ferrières, a medieval theologian and Benedictine monk. The first of the book's 31 illuminations, shown here, is of St. John, author of the Book of Revelation. The second book is a text by Richard of Weatheringset, the earliest identifiable Chancellor of Cambridge University between approximately 1215 and 1232, and is a guide for preachers to learn about the basic elements of faith and morals. The text, which was probably written by a scribe in a religious house, is written on parchment in double columns of a maximum of 34 lines. Moving in closer to the first leaf of the text, we can see the line of prickings along the edge of the margin on the right-hand side, made to assist the scribe in keeping the line straight. We can also see the illumination in more detail, which appropriately shows St. John in the act of writing, in a manner likely very similar to that employed in the writing of this text. In his left hand he has a blade hovering over the parchment, ready to scratch out any mistakes as he goes along. The text underlined in red comprises the Book of Revelation itself, with the commentary following. It's worth mentioning that, while I have been referring to the Apocalypse as an illuminated manuscript, in the strictest sense of the term that is not true, as, technically, illuminated leaves are only those which feature gold or silver. However, The term is generally accepted as referring to any illustrated or decorated manuscript. Here we can see a full-page illumination featuring the seven-headed beast described in the Book of Revelation. While certainly a striking image, like all of the book's illuminations, it is very crudely done, certainly in comparison with famously beautiful manuscripts such as the Book of Kells. This would suggest that, rather than being for display, the Norwich Apocalypse is aimed squarely at those wishing to use it to aid scholarly interpretation of the biblical text. Again, we can clearly see the prickings along the edge of the leaf to the right, along with the intentionally wide lower margin, which allowed the medieval reader to write in their own thoughts and comments. This image also gives more of an indication of the use of parchment rather than paper, the sort of rippling effect of the sheepskin particularly evident towards the bottom right-hand corner. Incidentally, while parchment is often used interchangeably with vellum, technically vellum should refer only to calfskin, often used for more prestigious manuscripts. If you are interested in finding out more about the Norwich Apocalypse, you can listen to Dr. Rebecca McGann's talk on this fascinating book, which can be found, along with many others, via the Norfolk Heritage Centre podcast. In addition, many other books belonging to the Norwich City Library collection can now be explored virtually through the new interactive digital resource Discover Historic Books, recently launched as part of the UEA's continuing Unlocking the Archive project. Thank you for watching.